Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dan here, the now no longer sick voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome to my review on Chapter 10 of RWBY Volume 3. And yes, you heard right, and if you saw my Twitter, you'd know that I've not been in a good state for the past week or so. I've had a nasty issue going on with my throat, and that's why I sadly missed out on doing a video on the 4 Maidens World of Remnant video before the next episode popped up. But I'll quickly go over some points now to make up for lost time. Number 1. Oh my god, what a beautiful special. For what the video lacked in terms of new information given, it made up for it in one of the most well-crafted bits of animation in the entire series. The 2D animation team did something amazing here, alongside some flat-out gorgeous music and wonderful narration by Shannon, who's almost like he's reading a story to kids rather than dropping some cryptic information. It made for a worthwhile watch and a brilliant conclusion to this volume's run of World of Remnants. Number 2. By now, I think it's kinda safe to assume that the old man in this tale has some ties to Ozpin. There's a lot that connects them by now to make the rumors that he is the same person seem true. There's the similar body traits, color theme, the fact that they both use a cane, both are tied to the maidens, and of course, the mystery surrounding Ozpin's age and the old man claiming that he's been around for centuries. If Ozpin isn't the same person, then he at least has to be connected somehow. Number 3. The new information revealed of a promise that the maidens would return each year to visit their new friend. That was an interesting note to end on, and it can't be without purpose. Were they all able to keep their promise, or did they fail at some point? What about when they eventually died? Was the wizard aware of when the maidens passed on? And were the next lot of maidens informed on that promise? I wanna say if that promise was broken in some way, could that also tie in the reasoning for the true villain's schemes? Perhaps reclaiming the power and anger for a promise broken. But that's the short list of points I wanted to make on that wonderful world of Remnant. To the review now, and last time in the RWBYverse, Cinder's brought pain to all, as Penny was turned into pieces, the Grimm and the White Fang have invaded, and Torchwick is now piloting a stolen Atlas ship. So was this episode strong enough to follow on such massive chain of events, or was it too much to ask? As ever, spoiler warning for those who haven't seen the episode, and now let's kick off looking into Chapter 10 of Volume 3, Battle of Beacon. As expected, things have gone to high hell right now, with the Grimm storming everywhere, including the fairgrounds where Blake and Weiss are at. Blake calls in on Yang over at Beacon, who's doing okay, but can't get through to RWBY, whose of course Skrull got blasted by Mercury in the last episode. As much as Yang is concerned for her sister, they need to get to work. Yang also drops much to Blake's surprise, the White Fang are involved too. But the call ends there, as Yang has to deal with some incoming Grimm. Time then for the monochrome pair to gear up, as we cut over to a Nevermore mounted Amity Coliseum, and poor RWBY is still in a state of shock over the loss of her metallic friend. Pyrrha's also in a similar state, and not even aware that the fact that John's calling out for her to leave before the Nevermore busts in. It succeeds, and would have gobbled up Miss Nikos if not for a very pissed off Red Tornado. It's RWBY, and she's packing one of Penny's swords, ready to defend her friends and stop the Nevermore, though the big birdie is derailed by some perfectly timed locker drops. It's time to call in the Cavalry. The rest of Team Juniper join in with Team Sun, Coffee, Auburn, and the pair of Flint and Neon from Team Funky, and leads into some nice chemistry of moves to thrash, bash, and eventually slash the feathered fiend to ruin. Now snapped out of a shocked state, Pyrrha tries to apologize for what she did to Penny, but thankfully RWBY doesn't blame her. As Jean points out, it's that woman who spoke over the system, Cinder, who's to blame, and right now they need to stop anyone else ending up like Penny because of her. Pyrrha's back in the game, just in time too to join in with everyone welcoming in the new breed of Grimm, Griffins. However, before they can get to blasting them away, Professor Port and Dr. Oobleck take over, wanting the students to leave. So with a flash of a camera, RWBY and the gang are off, and Port and Oobleck hold down the fort. Hopefully not to their deaths, cause they're so much fun. Outside, civilians head out, but Grimm are being shipped in, including this beastly, much more stronger looking Beowulf, which lays waste to some of Ironwood's mech soldiers. So the general decides it's finally time to step up to the plate, dashing in, pistol drawn, and firing away at the beast, even holding off a strike from the Grimm with the long-rumoured fake arm, giving him the opening he needs to toss the Grimm around and shoot its brains out. Nice to see the general can actually get his hands dirty, be they both natural or not. The general then kindly gives the students the latest. Grimm and the White Fang are in the city and beacon, with someone, namely Torchwick, causing havoc in the skies with one of his ships, leaving now to take him on and passing on everyone's two options: fight or save yourselves. As scary as the situation is though, no one backs down. Cue some Torchwick playtime. The now free baddie is having a blast messing around, but his true fun comes when Neon gives him a scroll packing that lovely little virus. And what does it do this time? Well, it's a straight up Order 66 deal, taking control of the Atlesian mechanical forces and turning them against the huntsmen and huntresses, including Clinder and Crow in the city, Blake and Weiss who have made it to Beacon, and Ironwood, who's set upon by his own forces, leaving his fate unknown as the ship begins to crash in front of the eyes of the students. And at this point, RWBY has had all she can stand and she can't stand no more, freaking jumping out of the ship back down to the Colosseum to hitch a ride on our locker to fly on up to Torchwick's hijacked ship. Sweet hell, RWBY. And speaking of sweet hell, Neo sent off to welcome the new passenger. Oh boy. Back on the ground, Weiss and Blake are coping with the dual waves of White Fang and robots, but trouble comes in with a double team of a prime model and virus-filled Atlesian paladin and a bad-looking super Beowulf dropping in. So the pair split up, Weiss with the mech, Blake with the Grimm. Sadly though, following the Grimm's path leads Blake spotting something much worse. At long last she has come back across her former mentor and partner, Adam Taurus. One awesome tracking shot now over the students fighting towards the trio of Cinder, Emerald and Mercury watching on. Note that Emerald comments that this is almost sad to watch. I wonder if that's a sign that she has some guilt in her. Cinder's not fussed though, and neither is Merc, who's broadcasting the carnage. And not shake those signals Cinder's exit, who seems quite excited about what happens next. Cutting to Ozpin now up in his tower, we see he's been watching over the situation, but with the Grimm, White Fang, and now Atlesian robot army in the mix, he takes up his cane, ready to get involved. Except another tremor seems to, pardon the pun, shake things up. And sad to say, it's nothing good at all, as out from inside a nearby mountain comes a freaking giant Grim dragon that spawns out even more Grim that drops off its body, and it's heading straight towards Ozpin's tower. As Team Juniper looks set to join in with the others to confront the next wave of Grim, Pyrrha spies Ozpin and heads towards him, seemingly ready to discuss about the full mating powers. And as the episode ends, Jean goes to follow her, and we see Cinder is close by herself. Ooh boy, things are not looking good for Vale right now. But let's talk about my negatives and positives for the episode. And once again I find myself without any real noteworthy negatives to mention. Though I will ask, where's Team Indigo, Bronze, or even Ciel, since we've seen that Auburn has joined in with a fight? Positives wise, the levels of badassness were high in this episode, which made for such a fun thrill ride. I loved that we saw some of the other students working so well with each other taking down that Nevermore, and finally seeing Ironwood having a chance to show that he's actually a capable fighter. But I definitely loved that RWBY and Jean both had some pretty cool moments. Jean has finally started to meld excellently lately into the leader role and a stronger support for Pyrrha, while RWBY went from Heartbreak to Superwoman in the same episode, with all the various stunts, and seeing her with Penny's sword was such a major jab to the heart. Also, I am very glad that they didn't go the route of RWBY blaming Pyrrha. It would have been the wrong dramatic road to take, since RWBY knows that it wasn't her fault, nor was it an accident, since Mercury tried to actively stop her from getting involved. It was an issue sorted out the best way possible, while still having some emotional tugs, seeing Pyrrha trying to take the weight of what happened on her shoulders, and RWBY trying to push on despite losing a dear friend. Gotta praise also how well the RWBY crew have added to this continued growing sense of helplessness in the situation right now. As if the initial horde of Grimm and the White Fang were enough, we've got tougher Beowulfs and now 2 new very deadly breeds of Grimm, as well as the mech forces being corrupted adding to the villainous numbers as well. It's making for even more likely a sense that Vale as a whole may never be the same after this, with this escalation in danger and destruction at hand, making it a much more tense and dark situation. Definitely curious about that Grim Dragon though. Been waiting for a dragon breed to come along, but it seems like with the reactions of Ozpin and Glinda, plus it, being stuck in a mountain, it's a creature with some interesting history. Why was it stuck there? Why do Ozpin and Glinda know about it? Whatever the reasons, it looks like it's the biggest Grimm threat to date, and will be the major focus if the heroes ever want to stop the wave of Grimms coming in. And finally, another painful cliffhanger topped off an episode packed with some great pacing and solid build up for the next lot of tasty plot points that's making it another hard wait for the next episode. Blake has finally come face to face with Adam. Yang's somewhere in Beacon, heading towards that same location that we know that she meets Raven in the Volume 2 stinger. RWBY is set to face off against Neo. Ironwood, Oobleck and Port may be new casualties to the list, and Pyrrha will finally confront the matter of the 4 maiden powers, with Cinder and Jean not far behind. I get the feeling that the next episode is going to be a majorly emotional one on top of all the continuing battles. For voice acting praise of the episode, it's a double header this time. The pair of Lindsay Jones and Miles Luna, who were both very strong in sounding like strong leaders and both have strong moments of emotional touches to their scenes of support, anger and concern. So that's it folks. As per the trend, it's another fantastic episode for the volume, setting up an even bigger hot streak for the final 2 episodes to take on. So far so good in doing one better than the Volume 2's closing moments, and I hope that it can continue. Like I said, I think that the next episode will be a big emotional ride alongside the various fighting going on, but we'll have to wait and see. For now though, how about you share your feelings on this episode in the comments down below. Also check out my Twitter linked in the description down below to keep up to date on my goings on. Until next time, have a good day or good night, and peace out.